So Donald Trump has chosen Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, and while I'm inclined to say this is a head scratcher, honestly it's not. Trump actually considered him in his first administration, but was immediately set aside for those that had greater experience. However, this time Trump opted for Hegseth due to his loyalty. Trump was tired of disagreements with previous defense secretaries and general officers. Nonetheless, this is a significant departure from four-star General James Mattis and Army Secretary Mark Esper, both of whom had senior defense experience. But Trump clearly had heartburn with his previous defense secretaries as Mattis resigned and Esper was dismissed during Trump's presidency. So Trump wants his guy this time around. So who is Pete Hegseth? Well, he is the co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. He does have military service, having reached the rank of major in the Army. He is an infantry officer and served in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay. He was awarded 2 Bronze Stars for his service. He authored several books, including The War on Warriors, which critiques what he perceives as the military's shift towards woke policies. Now, the question of experience will come up in his hearings. As a major, he obviously does not have senior military experience, and although it is unorthodox to not bring in a senior military official, it is not unprecedented. In fact, there have been 4 defense secretaries with 0 military experience. McNamara under Kennedy and Johnson, Cheney under Bush Sr., Cohen under Clinton, and Carter under Obama. Also, it's worth noting that both Panetta and Gates only served in the military for a couple of years, each reaching lieutenant ranks, and they were defense secretaries as well. The difference is those guys had experience elsewhere, whether it was running other agencies or serving on congressional committees or running global corporations as McNamara did at Ford. Hegseth ran a small veterans lobbyist firm called Vets for Freedom, which has since turned into a nonprofit, and then joined Fox in 2014. Hegseth does have some educational pedigree with a BA from Princeton in politics and a master's in public policy from Harvard, but where he falls short is in international dealings with other ministers and leaders, as well as working within high levels of the U.S. federal government. His experience overseas is in 3 deployments as a junior officer and as a reporter in Israel. He has very little contact with key allies such as NATO or foreign diplomats. Furthermore, within the military ranks, his vocal support for partisan positions may alienate nonpartisan career officials and military leaders in the Pentagon. The DoD has traditionally valued nonpartisanship to maintain cohesion and strategic focus. This is actually hammered into us. We rarely talk about politics in our professional military worlds, and it's actually frowned upon. Hegseth's nomination is expected to face major scrutiny during Senate confirmation processes. His unconventional media background, his lack of strategic level leadership, and outspoken views may lead to a contentious confirmation hearing, as there are very real concerns on how he will run a global military organization with 2.8 million personnel and a budget that is north of $840 billion, all while juggling multiple global crises. But regardless of all of this, let's take a look at what hints he has given us regarding China, Ukraine, and the Middle East. This is a bit difficult because these are mostly tied to his media musings. Starting with China, Hegseth has emphasized that China is actively building a military force aimed at challenging and potentially defeating the United States. He has warned that China has a comprehensive plan to surpass the U.S. economically and technologically, aiming to become the world's leading superpower. Hegseth has also criticized the Biden administration's handling of Chinese actions, suggesting that a lack of decisive response has emboldened Beijing. I'm not entirely sure what he means here because Biden has pretty much carried over and added to Trump's China policies. Hegseth has called for stronger measures to hold China accountable for its actions, including economic practices and human rights violations. He has discussed the importance of addressing these issues to protect U.S. interests and maintain global stability, but he has provided no definitive suggestions here. And it may not be that he hasn't provided them in private or that he doesn't have them, it's just there's no record of them given his positions. As for Ukraine, Hegseth has advised against U.S. intervention into Ukraine, emphasizing the importance of avoiding actions that could provoke further aggression from Russia. He stated, quote, "If Ukraine can defend themselves, great, but I don't want American intervention driving deep into Europe and making Putin feel like he's so much on his heels," end quote. Unfortunately, this plays right into the consistent and well-known Russian tactic of escalate to de-escalate, and we really don't need a SecDef that is fearful of Russian escalation. But mostly he focuses on domestic issues, arguing that they matter more. In February of 2022, Hegseth remarked, quote, "What is happening in Ukraine is important, but it pales in comparison to the crime I see in my streets, to the wokeness I see in my culture, to the inflation I see in my pocketbook, to the real border I care about, which is the southern border, which is wide open," end quote. His focus will have to change as SecDef, though, because he does not deal in trade, commerce, justice, or the border, and the other secretaries will remind him of this. Hegseth has acknowledged that Putin's motivations are for territorial and resource gains and not due to any real threat Ukraine actually posed, but he also defended Trump when Trump called Putin savvy and a genius. Hegseth said, quote, "No organism, no entity has done more to spread Russian propaganda and to prop up the straw man that is Vladimir Putin than our very own media, and Donald Trump was happy to troll them on it," end quote. On NATO, Hegseth said in one of his books, quote, "Why should America, the European emergency contact number for the past century, listen to self-righteous and impotent nations ask us to honor outdated and one-sided defense arrangements they no longer live up to," end quote. Pivoting to Israel and Iran, like the rest of Trump's cabinet, Hegseth is a staunch advocate for Israel, emphasizing its historical and strategic significance. He has highlighted the enduring connection between the Jewish people and their land, stating, quote, "It's the story of God's chosen people," end quote. He believes that the United States can draw valuable lessons from Israel's sense of purpose and resilience, suggesting that America's understanding of national identity and security could benefit from Israel's experiences. Hegseth has also consistently called for a firm stance against Iran's actions, particularly concerning its nuclear ambitions and regional influence. He has urged for actions to curb Iran's capabilities. He has expressed that Iran should return to the negotiating table, quote, "limping and begging, not seething," end quote, indicating his belief that Iran must be pressured or forced into compliance rather than approached with leniency. I know much of this is vague, but honestly, since he is not a diplomat, he does not have any concrete policy suggestions on the record to draw from. He has spoken heavily on what needs to be done, which is the easy part, but he has not really spoken on how it could be done. Assuming he is confirmed by the Senate, which the GOP holds a 53-person majority, we will be learning of his policy recommendations to Trump in real time. In the meantime, he is certainly the cabinet member that most closely resembles Trump's campaign rhetoric: anti-China, pro-Israel, and largely indifferent to what Putin does in Ukraine.